The day you stop waiting. You are not tired because life is hard. You are tired because a part of you has been waiting for permission that is never going to come, waiting to feel ready, waiting to be chosen, waiting for the fear to leave, waiting for the perfect plan, waiting for some sign that says, now is the moment your real life begins. But the truth is, your real life has already begun. It began on the ordinary mornings you ignored. It began on the nights you doubted yourself and still made it through. It began every time life asked you a question and you answered with survival. But survival is not the same thing as living. There comes a moment in every person's life when they quietly realize they have spent years standing at the edge of their own potential. Not because they are lazy, and not because they are broken, but because hesitation can disguise itself as wisdom. Overthinking can feel responsible. Playing small can feel safe. Staying hidden can feel mature. But there is a difference between being careful and being afraid of your own power. And many people never learn that difference until they look up and notice how much time has passed. They notice how many dreams became ideas, how many ideas became excuses, and how many excuses became identity. Somewhere along the way, they started saying, "This is just who I am. I'm not disciplined. I'm not confident. I'm not the kind of person who wakes up early, stays consistent, speaks boldly, builds something big, or changes my life." But identity is often just repetition, wearing a name tag. If you repeat avoidance long enough, you call yourself hesitant. If you repeat distractions long enough, you call yourself unmotivated. If you repeat self-betrayal long enough, you call yourself weak. But repetition can work in your favor too. If you repeat discipline, you become disciplined. If you repeat courage, you become brave. If you repeat self-respect, you become someone who no longer abandons themselves. The life you want is not always blocked by lack of opportunity. Sometimes it is blocked by an outdated version of you refusing to leave, the version that wants comfort more than growth, the version that needs certainty before movement, the version that keeps negotiating with habits that are quietly ruining everything, the version that says tomorrow like it is a sacred promise, even though tomorrow has been lying to you for years. Tomorrow is the most dangerous word in the language of unrealized potential. It sounds harmless, but it has buried more dreams than failure ever did. Failure is not what destroys most people. Delay does. Distraction does. Numbness does. The slow agreement to keep living beneath what they know is possible does. And the tragedy is not that they are incapable of more. The tragedy is that deep down, they know they are capable. That is what makes the quiet so heavy at night. That is what makes the scrolling feel empty. That is what makes comfort feel strangely exhausting. Because the soul recognizes when it is being underused. The spirit knows when a person was built for more than maintenance mode. You do not need another motivational quote saved in your phone. You do not need 10 more videos about morning routines if you are still ignoring your alarm. You do not need a perfect journal, a perfect playlist, a perfect plan, or a perfect new version of Monday. At some point, self-improvement stops being about learning and starts being about honesty. Honesty about what you already know. Honesty about what you keep avoiding. Honesty about the fact that your future is not being stolen from you. In many cases, it is being traded away by you, one undisciplined moment at a time. That may sound harsh, but it is actually hopeful. Because if you are the one making the trade, then you are also the one who can stop. If your life has been shaped by small choices, it can be reshaped by small choices. If your current reality was built by repeated patterns, your next reality can be built the same way. You do not need a life-changing breakthrough. You need life-changing follow-through. Most people are not one decision away from success. They are one repeated decision away, one repeated act of self-respect, one repeated act of discipline, one repeated refusal to go back to sleep inside their own life. That is where change begins. It begins when you stop asking whether you feel like it. Feelings are weather, not commands. Some days, motivation will show up like sunlight. Other days, it will hide behind clouds and leave you with nothing but a choice. And on those days, the choice matters more than the mood. Because anyone can act when they feel inspired, but the people who transform are the ones who act while uninspired, unseen, uncertain, and tired. They do not wait for energy to become available before they move. They move and energy catches up. They move and clarity catches up. They move and confidence catches up. Action is the language your future understands. There is a version of you who has already learned this. A version of you who wakes up and keeps promises. A version of you who is no longer held hostage by convenience. A version of you who knows that discipline is not punishment. It is self-love in a form that your excuses do not enjoy. It is saying, I care about my life too much to keep handing it over to impulses. It is saying, I am done living as a passenger. It is saying, I will no longer let temporary comfort make permanent decisions for me. The hardest part is not becoming better. The hardest part is grieving the identity that keeps you familiar. Even if that identity hurts you, it still feels like home. Struggle can become familiar. Chaos can become familiar. Last-minute panic can become familiar. Broken routines, broken promises, broken momentum can all start to feel normal. And when dysfunction becomes familiar, peace can feel boring at first. Discipline can feel unnatural. Consistency can feel strange. Silence can feel uncomfortable when you're used to constant distraction. But unfamiliar does not mean wrong. Many people quit healthy habits not because they do not work, but because the habits feel foreign to the identity they have practiced for years. They confuse unfamiliarity with impossibility. But every new life feels awkward before it feels natural. Every stronger version of you will feel fake before it feels real. That is not evidence you are failing. That is evidence you are crossing a border. You are leaving a country called excuse and entering a country called responsibility. And responsibility is heavy at first because it places the steering wheel back in your hands. No more blaming your mood. No more blaming timing. No more pretending you need one more week to prepare. Preparation has a place, but eventually preparation becomes procrastination in a suit. There is a point where getting ready becomes a way of avoiding the thing itself, and you know when you have crossed that line. You feel it when advice becomes entertainment. You feel it when growth becomes something you consume instead of something you practice. You feel it when you can explain discipline better than you can demonstrate it. You feel it when your mind is full, but your life is unchanged. Knowledge without embodiment creates frustration, because your intellect starts witnessing the gap between what you know and what you do. That gap is painful. It erodes self-trust. Every time you say, I'll start tomorrow, and don't, something subtle happens inside you. You teach yourself that your word does not mean much. And when self-trust dies, confidence goes with it. Confidence is not built by thinking highly of yourself. It is built by proving to yourself that you can rely on yourself. Tiny promise by tiny promise, action by action, day by day. That is why the biggest transformation in your life may begin with something so small that nobody else would even notice it. Waking up when you said you would. Turning the phone face down when your work matters more. Going for the walk. Doing the set. Writing the page. Making the call. Cleaning the room. Drinking the water. Keeping the promise. These things look insignificant to the outside world. But to your nervous system, they are revolutionary. They send a new message. I do what I say I will do. I am no longer building a life on negotiations. I am building a life on standards. Standards will change your life faster than goals. A goal says, I want to lose weight. A standard says I do not skip movement because my body deserves care. A goal says I want more money. A standard says I do not keep spending to impress people who are not paying my bills. A goal says I want peace. A standard says I no longer entertain chaos just because it is familiar. Goals are destinations. Standards are identity. And identity is what determines how you live when no one is watching. The world loves dramatic before and after stories. But real change usually looks quiet in the beginning. It looks like making your bed when nobody claps. It looks like deleting the app that drains your attention. It looks like sitting in the discomfort of boredom instead of reaching for instant stimulation. It looks like choosing the hard right over the easy wrong so many times that your nervous system stops panicking at discomfort. That is when transformation starts becoming visible. Not because your life suddenly becomes easy, but because your relationship with difficulty changes. What once felt unbearable becomes manageable. What once felt impossible becomes routine. What once felt like discipline becomes simply who you are. And let's be honest, some of you are not struggling because you lack talent. You are struggling because you have made comfort your highest value. You want growth, but only if it fits neatly inside convenience. You want change, but only if it does not ask you to surrender habits you enjoy. You want success, but only if fear can come with you and remain in charge. That is not how this works. Everything meaningful will ask something from you. Every new season has a price. Strength costs comfort. Clarity costs distraction. Peace costs chaos. Purpose costs passivity. And the question is not whether the price exists. The question is whether you are finally tired enough of the old cost to pay for the new one, because your current life is not free either. Staying stuck has a cost. Avoidance has a cost. Indecision has a cost. People think discipline is hard, but so is regret. People think honesty is painful, but so is denial. People think change is uncomfortable, but so is remaining the same when deep down you know you are meant to evolve. Choose your hard. Choose the pain that builds instead of the pain that drains. Choose the effort that returns your life to you. One day, you will either thank yourself for starting or wish you had. That day is coming, whether you act or not. Time does not pause because you are confused. Life does not slow down because you are hesitating. Your future is being formed right now by what you repeatedly tolerate, by what you repeatedly avoid, by what you repeatedly obey. If you obey cravings more than convictions, your life will reflect that. If you obey fear more than vision, your life will reflect that. If you obey purpose more than comfort, your life will reflect that too. There is power in realizing that your habits are not random. They are votes. Each action is a vote for the person you are becoming. Each delay is a vote. Each excuse is a vote. Each disciplined moment is a vote. And you do not become someone new in a single dramatic event. You become someone new by collecting enough votes in a new direction. That is why one good day matters. Not because it solves everything, but because it interrupts the pattern. It proves another way is possible. And once something becomes possible in your nervous system, it becomes repeatable. The first time you resist the urge to quit early, something shifts. The first time you do the work without being in the mood, something shifts. The first time you tell the truth instead of performing a version of yourself that feels more acceptable, something shifts. And no, the heavens may not open. Nobody may notice. Your life may still look ordinary from the outside, but the foundation has changed. You have moved from wishing to practicing, from admiring discipline to participating in it, from watching your life to building it. Many people are addicted to potential because potential is safer than proof. Potential lets you fantasize without risking exposure. Potential keeps your ego protected. As long as you have not fully tried, you can always tell yourself you probably could have done it. But proof is different. Proof requires action. Proof requires visible effort. Proof requires the courage to be seen, learning, stumbling, improving, and trying again. That is why so many gifted people stay hidden. Not because they cannot win, but because trying would force them to find out who they really are. And finding out is terrifying when you have spent years living off imagination alone. But let me tell you something freeing. You do not need to be exceptional today. You need to be available to the process today. You do not need to have arrived. You need to stop abandoning the road. The process will humble you, but it will also rebuild you. It will show you how weak your old excuses really were. It will show you that your limits were often habits, not destiny. It will show you that discipline is not reserved for some elite breed of human being. It is learned, practiced, reinforced, and earned, like anything else. And yes, some days you will fall short. Some days you will miss the workout, waste the hour, say the wrong thing, lose momentum, or disappear into old patterns. Do not make a home out of one bad day. Do not turn a mistake into an identity. Do not let one moment of weakness write the story of your future. The people who win are not always the ones who never fall. They are the ones who return quickly. They know how to restart without drama. They know how to repent without self-hatred. They know how to say, "That was beneath me," and then rise accordingly. Self-improvement is not about becoming someone you can show off to the world. It is about becoming someone you can live with in private, someone whose habits bring peace instead of shame, someone whose word has weight, someone whose mind is not constantly at war with their own behavior, someone who can sit quietly without needing distraction to escape themselves. That is a wealthy life, even before money enters the room. That is a successful life, even before applause arrives. To respect yourself deeply is one of the greatest luxuries a human being can experience. It changes how you walk, how you speak, what you accept, what you pursue, and what you no longer chase. And maybe that is the real goal. Not perfection, not constant motivation, not a flawless routine that never cracks. Maybe the real goal is becoming a person who returns to alignment faster and faster. A person who notices misalignment quickly. A person who does not let temporary weakness become permanent residence. A person who understands that every day is a chance to vote again, to choose again, to begin again, to stop waiting again. Because the beautiful thing about life is that transformation rarely announces itself in advance. It often begins the moment a person gets quietly serious. No speech, no spotlight, no dramatic soundtrack, just a decision made in the dark that this version of me has gone as far as it can go. And from here, I build. So, if you are listening to this and you feel behind, hear this clearly. You are not disqualified by delay. You are not ruined by inconsistency. You are not too late because you took longer than someone else. You are only in danger if you keep worshipping delay as if it protects you. It does not protect you. It prolongs the pain. You do not need a different life first in order to become different. You become different, and then your life follows. The outer world catches up to the inner decision, but it only catches up if the decision is real, not emotional, not temporary, real. The kind of real that changes what you do when this audio ends. The kind of real that reaches into the next hour, the next morning, the next week, the next moment when no one is around and the old version of you asks for one more excuse. When that moment comes, remember this. Your life is not changed by what moves you for a minute. It is changed by what you practice after the feeling fades. So let the feeling fade and keep going anyway. Let the excitement disappear and keep going anyway. Let it become ordinary. Let it become routine. Let it become who you are. The day you stop waiting is the day your life starts answering back, not all at once, but enough to keep you moving, enough to show you that momentum is real, enough to remind you that discipline creates freedom, enough to reveal that peace is often on the other side of obedience, enough to prove that the strongest version of you was never missing. It was simply buried under patterns you no longer have to carry. So lay them down. Lay down the excuse that says you need more time. Lay down the story that says you have always been this way. Lay down the habit of betraying yourself for temporary relief. Lay down the addiction to almost. And then stand up. Stand up in your mind first. Stand up in your standards. Stand up in your actions. Stand up in the small private choices that build a powerful life, brick by brick. Stand up before you feel ready. Stand up while your voice still shakes. Stand up while the old version of you is still begging for one more comfortable delay. Stand up and decide that your future will no longer be negotiated by your weakness. Stand up and become the kind of person your younger self would trust. Stand up and build a life your older self will thank you for. Stand up and start now, not next Monday, not next month, not when life calms down, not when the fear disappears, now. Because the truth is, the person you want to become is not waiting for a perfect moment. That person is waiting for your decision. And maybe, just maybe, this is the day you finally make it.